Today I'm going to do a review on the Danmar Max-Jax. This is a mid-lift, two-post lift, and I'll kind of walk you through a little bit about why I chose this lift, a little bit about how I went about installing it, and how to use it. So first of all, if you have a garage that has a ceiling that's somewhere around 9 or 10 feet tall, obviously you can't get a full lift in here. So I went after a Max-Jax, and this one gets the vehicle up high enough for me where I sit on a stool and roll around underneath the vehicle, and I'm able to do quite a bit of service work underneath the vehicle sitting on a stool as opposed to standing. I'm 6'1", and that was one of my biggest concerns before plopping down the money for this jack, was would I be too tall or not. I went ahead and got this one, ordered it through Menards when they had one of their 10% off everything type sales. So I think it ended up being somewhere around $1,900, which is expensive, but it's heavy gauge steel, incredibly well constructed by a reputable manufacturer. You can actually get parts for it if you were to need them. And I don't think this is in my life I skimp on a lot of things for quality, but definitely not a jack that I intend to crawl underneath the vehicle. I wasn't going to skimp on quality for that. Now, I recommend you do a lot of research on Max-Jax, look at their instruction manuals and those sorts of things. You can see how it's bolted to the floor. I did install mine myself. I didn't have any problems, but I was pretty methodical about going through their instructions and reading everything that there is to read online about the installation of these. This is an area that if you're not comfortable installing it yourself after you read the instructions, you definitely want to hire a professional, because life and death matter here if you crawl underneath your car. So that'll be your decision based on your reading of the manufacturer's information. So moving on to the components of the Max-Jax, you have two towers, one here obviously on each side of the vehicle. They're both bolted down to the floor as we just looked at. Each one is controlled or has a hydraulic hose, which I should mention does have a quick disconnect if you want to remove and roll these posts into the corner or whatever. I tend to leave it installed year-round out of the way. So it's got a hydraulic hose here, which feeds back to the control unit, and it consists of a motor and a hydraulic pump and a reservoir for the transmission fluid, which is what it uses. And this is how you raise and lower the Max-Jax. It's just one button to raise it, and then the lever a little bit lower to lower it. So it's very simple operation, and this cart rolls out of the way too if you need to move this out of the way for a different kind of project or whatever, or you don't plan on using the Max-Jax for a while. You can put it in the corner and stow it. So it's convenient that way for a small shop or a home garage. So the next step here is going to be bringing in a vehicle to lift it up. I have a cone on my floor, and I've marked the location with some lines, and that way when I'm pulling a vehicle in I can get it pretty straight. And since this is a mid-lift jack with the arms aren't as long as some types of jacks you would find in a professional garage. However, they are adjustable. As you can see, I just pulled that arm out, but in a garage this would probably be further apart in a full-size lift, and the arms would be more adjustable and forgiving if you pull the vehicle in and it's not perfectly straight. So I like to use the cone, so when I'm pulling in a vehicle I can get it centered nicely, hopefully with minimal number of efforts. Okay, now we have our vehicle that is lined up and centered in the garage, centered between the posts, and I've taken the arms and I have moved them underneath the vehicle. Every vehicle's got its own lifting points that are safe for floor jacks or lifts such as this on the Corvette. They're right on the very edge, right underneath the rocker panels. But every vehicle's different as to where you want to lift, and you're going to want to do some research on your particular vehicle to make sure you're lifting in a safe spot. So I've got all four of these underneath the vehicle. So I'm going to go over here to the control unit, and all we really have to do at this point is sit back, take a look at our vehicle, press this button, and the car will go up in the air. It probably took, I don't know, about 2 minutes, a minute and a half to get it all the way up in the air. That's a little slower than a professional lift in a garage, but it is for a home shop. You're not doing this every day. It does have an option to wire it with 220 volt instead of 110, which I believe increases the speed at which it lifts it, but quite honestly, I've had this for 2 years and 110 volt is fast enough for me. So the car is up in the air, and now the last thing to do before we crawl underneath it, there are these safety pins, which they store up here, and then you just put them in a little bit lower here. There's one on each side. And then you lower it down on the pin, and that way if you were to have a hydraulic rupture, the car wouldn't slide all the way down. I'm going to do the other side now. Alright, so I've got both safety pins in. Here's the little creeper stool I like to use. Now it's safe to crawl underneath the vehicle. And as I said, I'm 6'1", so I have no problem crawling underneath here. You can see here's where on this particular vehicle, the Corvettes are so low, I actually like to use a hockey puck on top of my jack, and it fits right against this is the steel frame part of the Corvette right here. And there's 4 of these, one in each corner, so it's nice and safe and secure under each corner here of the Corvette. But as you can see, I've got plenty of room underneath here to do all the work I might need to do. And if I'm going to be doing a long project, there are these devices right here, which I use only if I'm going to be under there for a long time. You can see it brings the vehicle up another 3 inches. But like I said, I'm 6'1", and for the most part I rarely use them because it's high enough while I'm using my creeper stool to crawl underneath here. So to sum it up, the only regret I have about the Max-Jax is, and it's a big one, I'm pretty upset that I didn't buy this thing 5 years ago. I'm in my 40s, and I've used a creeper for many, many years. And this is a lot nicer than using a creeper and rolling underneath a vehicle. So, it's a positive review of the Max-Jax, no regrets, and I hope to get, I think this thing will probably last 20 years, so it's a good quality piece and I have no concerns. Good luck with your decision. And of course, the last step here, now that we're all done working on this vehicle, would be to lower it. And to do that, all we do is push this little lever right here. And this is in real time, so you can see how fast it goes down. It's actually pretty quick. Nice and smooth and safe until it's back on the ground. That's it for this video.